Hello to all my friends out there. And so this is a chat on survival. I wasn't planning on doing this chat, but when my husband died, the minister told us God will speak to you through your memories. So a memory popped into my mind, and it was one of my customers survived the chemical attack. I think it was northern Iraq, and Saddam Hussein chemicaled the people, and he survived. And I said, oh my goodness, how were you able to survive? And he said, well, we ran to the hills when we saw the helicopters coming. So don't ever forget that. If things start getting really, really bad, evacuate. If he had stayed in that city, he would have been chemicaled. But fortunately, he ran out. Okay, this is the memory that popped into my mind. One of my customers was deathly sick. He was another Mideastern. And he prayed to God, and he said, God, save me. And so he said he had a vivid dream of lemons. So he drank as much black tea, this is only $1, and lemon as he could. So I'm going to start drinking lemon a lot more. I mean, why wait until you're deathly ill? And another thing, black tea is probably the best tea. It's not expensive. Okay, so now I've been reading books a lot, quite a bit, and a lot of these have a theme of survival. This is a story, they call this the greatest story ever told, when the angel came to Mary and you shall have a son and your son shall be called Jesus. This is the greatest story ever told. But there's other really great stories as well. This is my family. And the story is about the little child that was back here. And it's a story of survival. Here is me, the art of the disguise. I did that yesterday. Not my best look. Switzerland to Utah. Okay, Switzerland is a long ways from Utah. Our provisions began to get low. One day, a herd of buffalo ran past, and the men of our company shot 2 of them. Such a feast as we had when they were dressed. Each family was given a piece of meat to take along. My brother John, who pushed at the back of our cart, used to tell how hungry he was all the time and how tired he got from pushing. He said he felt if he could just sit down for a few minutes, he would feel so much better. But instead, Father would ask if he couldn't push a little harder. Mother was nursing the baby and could not help much, especially when the food ran short and she grew weak. When rations were reduced further, Father gave Mother a part of her share of his share of food, so he was not so strong either. They had to flee out of Missouri before they were murdered, and they were on their way to Utah. When we got that chunk of buffalo meat, Father put it in the hand cart. They didn't have a wagon, they had a hand cart. My brother John remembered that it was the 4th part of the week, and Father said we would save it for Sunday dinner. John said, her brother, I was so very hungry, and the meat smelled so good to me while pushing at the hand cart that I could not resist. I had a little pocket knife, and with it, I cut off a small piece or 2 each half day. So only 2 pieces a day, although I expected a severe whipping. When Father found out, I cut off little pieces each day. I would chew them so long that they got white, and perfectly tasteless. When Father came to get the meat, he asked me if I had been cutting off some of it. I said yes. I was so hungry I could not let it alone. Instead of giving me a scolding or a whipping, Father turned away and wiped tears from his eyes. So you get it, life was not good. And this is why I harp on this beef jerky thing. It just very well could have saved. This was my grandmother's grandmother. I think she was born on the way. And this is the brother. See, he was not a big person. He was a child. And he survived. And I will show you one more picture, because this is a good one. The grandmother I just showed you was married to her uncle. They were polygamists. And he is the one that when he was baptized in Switzerland, they cut a hole in the ice. They baptized him. He was a hunchback. And when he came out, he was made whole. And he made his all the way to Bunkerville, Nevada, by Mesquite, Nevada, if any of you know where that is. And he was killed. The account is not entirely accurate in this book. He was killed, I'm pretty sure, by those round plow blades. In the book, they say the horse ran off, but it was worse than that. And he was killed. He was killed by an accident while farming. That's when this guy came in, straight from Switzerland, and with him came horses. He made another trip back to Switzerland, and he married a woman. He brought another wife back, which all the other wives probably thought that's just what we needed. Here is what he had to say. Polygamy was hard to live, both for the man and the woman. But we went into it obedient to the Lord's command and tried to subdue our jealous feelings and live in accordance to the Spirit of God. Sometime before his death, John said, I complied with the celestial law of plural marriage in obedience to the church. There were no men. They all died on the way, pretty much. Church authorities, and because the command was divinely inspired. It cost me much heartache and sorrow, and I have shed many tears over it, but I feel that the sacrifices I made brought great blessings, and I am satisfied. I'll show you something. They were very picky about the children they produced. See how the little children, he's 100 years old here. Imagine traveling all the way from Switzerland. So there you go for a good survival story. And also the woman, this was not my family. She was a Mormon. She went to a polygamy compound in Mexico and almost starved. And an old man came up to her. Her husband came up here to work. An old man came up to her and said, ma'am, your daughter is starving. He gave her a bag of rice, a bag of beans, some vegetables, and said, plant a garden. So learn how to plant a garden, even if all you have is... And then I read this book. This is an Indian book. There's also a legend how the ants saved the Hopi, ant people saved the Hopi people 2 times. Once during ice, once during fire. Okay. This is one of my father-in-law's antique car, and my son was busy, and I made him drive it in the car show, and he didn't want to, and he was so mad. And all the men, some of these antique cars are worth fortunes. This is my son. He's very annoyed. He doesn't want to do it, but he humored me, and now I'm really glad he did. We had quite possibly the worst car in the entire car show, and my husband sold this jewel for $500, and they went out for dinner to the Red Lobster. Okay, now the crux of this story is good too. Okay. He's poor, and he doesn't have a horse, and it's not good for him. He's sad. He goes and he makes a clay horse. Yeah, this is ridiculous. While he's in the cave with the clay horse, the buffalo come and the people leave him. Then the clay horse comes to life, returns. This is a legend. He finds his people. He finds his mother first, then he finds his people. The chief tells him it is a divine inspiration that he is going to save his people. They have a great battle coming. A war chief invited him into the big teepee. There was soup and dried meat, which I'm always harping on, and 2 buffalo horn spoons in a wooden bowl. They ate together. Here is the battle, and, ultimately he becomes the chief. But prior to that, he nearly starved. He was abandoned. Okay, then I read this book, and if you have children, this is an antique book. Well, good luck getting one of these. Okay, here is my grandmother. This is my grandmother, the one I'm named after, and my grandfather and my father. And you can see my father was straight off of the farm, and he went to college. The brother, the grandmother I showed you, her son went to college as well, and they were very proud about that. And then, my dad managed to go into the Army and then go to college, UCLA, and then San Diego State College, and then my son graduated as well from San Diego State College, which is nothing but impossible too when you figure out where they were coming from. Okay, now for the white stag. All right. This is the leader of the Huns. He has nothing to sacrifice for his god, so he sacrificed his horse. The people were starving, at which time the white stag showed up and led the people to a safer area. But, of course, another famine came, and again, they were at the point of destruction. This was a freezing cold destruction. For days, the weather had been growing steadily colder. You cannot survive cold weather. The sun was hiding behind laden clouds heavy with snow. The Huns had no more wood for fires. The rocky cliffs around them were barren of trees. People huddled close together for a little warmth. Silent, miserable, and puzzled. So they were on the brink of starvation. They were on the brink of freezing, not looking good. In the gray dusk of the 7th day, Benghazi and Attila, which had been through a lot of years and years and years of war. So they had years and years and years of war. They were following the sun, trying to find this peaceful place to live, and they're on the brink of destruction, ready to freeze to death. There was no need for words. There was no words to express what they felt. The impending doom of their people and their own helplessness tore at them with claws more vicious than the claws of the numbing cold. There was no hope in the heart of Attila. To him, the future seemed darker than the thickening night. So things are not looking good. They had been through years and years and years of war. And now they're brought to the brink of destruction. And Attila is ready to crack. Attila snapped the voice of Benghazi like a lash of a whip, and his old eyes blazing with icy flame. Attila, kill the snake of doubt in your soul. Crush the worms of fear in your heart, and mountains will move out of your way, and your foes will become less than a handful of dust before your sword, Attila. And they had ridden in battle many times, and both of them should be dead. Pray, but do not challenge. Be strong, my son. Trust yourself and the God in your heart. The tortured face of Attila relaxed. He laid his arm around the shoulders of Benghazi. "Forgive me, Father," he whispered. "Your faith is greater than mine." At which time the white stag shows up and leads them through caverns. All the people are safe because of this apparition. And then, you know, they're grateful and they build an altar. But this is the all-time best picture in the book. Let me show you. Where's that all-time best picture in the book? Ah, here it is. Here's the father and son after they survive. These two survived and did the impossible all their lives. That's all they knew. And what's really great about this book, the illustrations were actually done by the author, which is unbelievable. So lemons, 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 if you're sick. Okay, you guys, God bless you all.